Welcome back, everybody, to the Fighting for Freedom podcast. I just want to say thank you to everybody for all your love and support. You guys have helped this channel grow dramatically. If you could please, at this time, drop us a like, comment, subscribe, share our podcast, turn on those bell notifications, and leave us a rating and good review. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Fighting for freedom, one podcast at a time.
What up, what up? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode on the Fighting for Freedom podcast. I want to start off by saying that PS5 in the back, don't worry, I already addressed that situation. He does have an Xbox, everybody, so give Gershon a round of applause, everybody. What's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
I just want to say, before we get started, thank you so much for your time. I know we've been trying to get like an ongoing battle here of hopping on, in the middle of PCSing, moving, and just life, man. Thank you for coming out here today.
Absolutely. Like I told you, life is chaos. So once you're in the military, you're just all over the place, and it's just a matter of a small buckets of time you have to like make stuff happen.
Yes, bro. Someone once told me Semper Gumby, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Now I'm well aware, dude. You always got to be flexible.
You do.
Always, man.
You do.
Yeah.
I've never 100%. Had anything go really smooth from start to finish, I don't think, that I can remember.
No, never. Except for my pay. Hopefully that's on the 1st and the 15th. That's the only thing that's standard. That and like your clothes, right? Your clothes never change.
Well, they do. I had one uniform change. I've been through one.
You know what? I'm actually lying, too, because when I first joined the Navy, we had blue camis, and now we have, these other ones.
I remember those.
I like them. I think they're pretty cool. I like them better than these ones.
I hated seeing those.
Really? The blue ones? Well, then you knew we were in the Navy, right? So, like, it is what it is, I guess. All right. Well, enough about me in the Navy. Let's get into you, your life, and the Air Force, right? So, Bringing it back to square one. Who are you? Where did you grow up? What was childhood like for you?
Childhood. So I had a crazy, not crazy childhood, but a little bit all over the place.
Okay.
So I grew up back and forth. So my parents are Caribbean. They came here from Trinidad and Tobago. So they came here 1987, so the year after I was born.
Okay.
They initially moved to New York, so I lived in Brooklyn for about my first 4 years or so.
Shout out! Yeah, where in Brooklyn now?
Flatbush, off of Church Avenue.
Oh, okay. I was born in Bay Ridge. My whole family from Bay Ridge. Yeah, so we neighbors and shit,
There you go. That's exactly where you're at. So, when it was time for like elementary school or so, they were like, hey, we need somewhere a little more quiet, a little more kind of relaxed a little bit. So I got to Maryland late 80s, early 90s. So grew up in Maryland, Hyattsville, like a little bit out of College Park, kind of middle school, high school for a little bit. And actually I went back to Trinidad for high school because my mom was like, I need you to go to a private school. I need you I don't like the school you're going to right now. Like I need you so down there, education is like British tied. So you're kind of in the British system of education. So you do, like a lot of my classes for high school, like kind of went through Cambridge. Went through high school there. My senior year down there, I did SAT because I knew I was coming back here, for college. That was like, I'm first generation college, so that was not. And if you have anyone with like Caribbean parents or immigrant parents, college is not a option. So I had to go to college. So say the SATs, and then they have something down there. They call it the Caribbean Examination Council, which is almost like similar SATs. So I did both. So I knocked out both of those, and then I was back here like permanently 2004. Applied to a bunch of colleges close to Maryland, DC. I wanted to travel a little bit, but then I was like, like my parents live here. I have kind of a free bed. I don't have to have roommates. I can get a queen size.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to Howard University in DC. Business major. Kind of just got my way through college. I got out of college 2009. Market crash. So that was tough. It was pretty rough for everyone.
And you went to school for business too, so
yeah. And I was,
you know what I mean?
now I would tell people I was a management major. Find something a little more specialized in management. Like a management major, you work at McDonald's, or it's so vague that there's really not a placement for you. You kind of fall in anywhere. So my mom is a nurse by trade. So she put herself through nursing school all while I was growing up. So one of the main family she worked for, they had 2 Air Force officers, one doctor, one pilot. So they were like, "Hey,
that's a duo."
They're like, "Hey, you ever thought about joining the Air Force?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
I was like, "No." Not in the military. Like I just wanted to party, get a job, and kind of go on my life. So it wasn't a thought. So I had like a marketing job at the time. Funny enough, so I used to like guerrilla marketing. So I remember it was like during the summer, it was like 2009, 10. I would go like grocery stores. I would go like on the Monument, and I worked for like Procter & Gamble. Like those were some of our vendors, and then so every new product they have, I like run up on you and try to offer it to you, get a sample, and kind of get your opinion. And then, funny enough, one day I had to go to Andrews, and I was handing out some new Pringle chips and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh, it's not a bad place." So I was like, "You know what? Let me go call a recruiter." And you'll actually like this piece. I was dead set on joining the Navy.
Really? But
Dead set on
why
the
make the? But why? Wait. First of all, let's backtrack. Why?
I just thought the brochure looked a lot cooler, to be honest with you. Like when I thought about doing the military, when like you're like, I'm like, you know what? Let me go check it out. So I went with the MEPS. It was funny enough. Well, not MEPS. I went to the recruiter's office, and you walk in there. At the right was the Air Force, and Navy was the left. And like the ships were there, like the locale. Like, this looks like the deal right here. So I hooked the left. I had done my ASVAB before I even walked into a recruiter's office, so I had pretty good scores. I just went and like knocked it out. So I just wanted to go see like what was available job wise. So I sat down with the Navy guy, blah blah blah. It's like, all right, it's not too bad. And then he started talking to me about being on a submarine for like a long period of time, and I was like, this.
What not to do? Basic 101s, like, you should start off like, if you're gonna pitch a submarine, be like, "Yo, you want to know how you could make an extra like 40K? All right, now I'm all ears." You know what I mean? They'll be like, "You want to be on a little tiny boat, like 40,000 feet under the water for 9 months?" No, like that's probably not what I want to be doing.
If he started with what you just said, he might have caught me a little longer. But when he started,
yeah,
I'm like that long underwater. I'm like when do we dock? Like, what's the docking? And I was like, this does not sound like. I was like, you know what? I'll come back. I'm gonna go across. I'm hook a right. I'll come back.
Yeah.
Went to the Air Force office. I already had my ASVAB score, so I just kind of like passed it off to him too. He hit me like a list of jobs, and he's like, all these are transferable. Because at the time, I'm like, I'm gonna be a one-term person. I'm just gonna get in here, get some experience. Because like most people know, like DC's like the government job hub. So correct, I'm thinking, okay, I go to the Air Force, I get some security clearance, I'm going to come back out, and then I'll work somewhere, Homeland Security, something. So I got like a list of jobs, and I'm like, cool. And then I thought, I don't know, like he walked me through it. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm signing up here. I signed up for finance. That was my job. And so went home like, oh, I'm going to be doing finance. And like 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, took a look at it. If you do finance, you'll never get out of here. And that was like over the summer. He's like, you'll never get out of here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he's like, which they tell most recruiters probably don't do now, but he was like, if you do open general, you can leave in like a month. I wouldn't advise anyone to do that right now, just because you never know what you could end up doing. Most times when you do open general, you end up security forces or whatever they have for me.
Yeah,
But I'm like, I was ready to, I was ready to kind of get out of my parents' house. I was just kind of ready to kind of get my life rolling. So I'm like, I'll do open general. I'll just get out of here. So I was out of the door within a couple months. Like I spent Christmas, New Year's. I was in Lackland like so fast.
damn.
I
That's a pretty quick turnaround.
I actually can't remember the space of time between like going to the Air Force office and getting to Lackland. It's kind of like a blur to me at this point, but I remember like going MEPS, duck walk, all that, bunch of forms, and I felt like within no time I was in Lackland getting yelled at, and it was a culture shock for me.
Yeah,
For
you're
sure.
like, what's got? Yeah, I just went from being in college, partying, just trying to have fun, to now I'm having someone who's 2 years younger than me yelling at me. Like, what the fuck? Like, how does that work? You know what I mean?
Right. I actually think I was older than my TI. I'm not sure. I think I was.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what I'm
older than
saying,
most-
dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little older than most of the guys too. So a lot of the stuff, I'm like, oh, I just got to kind of wade my way through here. But BMT was hard for me. That was such a culture.
Yeah. Big culture shock, dude. The first night, the first week, like you're still getting used to it.
I couldn't wrap my head around any of it. Like the chow hall stuff. I couldn't. That was like the worst for me.
Yeah.
So I powered my way through BMT. I got to tech school. I think I missed a piece in there, but like halfway through BMT, you finally get to pick your job.
Okay.
So they were like, hey, they gave me the list, and actually security forces was on. I choose Intel. So I signed up to be Intel. I was going to head to Goodfellow. But the security clearance takes like so super long.
Yeah, is it like a year-long process for you guys as well?
It's
For most security
year and a
clearance.
half. Yeah, year and a half. So I ended up being in Lackland like after I graduated BMT. I'm at Lackland super long because then they interview your parents, they interview like your friends.
Everybody do. Yeah, they hit up like, yeah, I had the same kind of shit done, and they hit up like my ex-girlfriend from when I was like 17. Like,
yeah, no.
Don't call her. She fucking hates me. You know? Yeah,
they
dude. Like,
went as far.
Yes, bro. They even called. I used to work at Buffalo Wild Wings when I was younger, and I put it down like on my paper, right? And I get a phone call one day, and they're like, "We have a problem," and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "You lied on your your application," and I'm like, "No, I didn't." And they're like, "Yeah, you did." And I'm like, "Well, what did I lie about?" And they're like, "Well, you said you worked at Buffalo Wild Wings from this day to this day, but we had the NYPD and investigators go to your job and ask the manager to pull up your record, and it says you worked there from this day to this day." And I'm like, "Well, that's a lie." And they're like, "Well, why would we believe you? Because they have it on paper." And I'm like, "Well, I was in boot camp during that time." And they were like, "Huh, we'll call you back." And then I never heard from him ever again. And luckily, everything worked out for me. But I was like, "What do you mean I lied?" I was like, "I was literally in boot camp." I was like, how are you going to prove to me that? I was like, that makes no sense. I was like, you literally had like my life. I was, like you said, I was eating from a weird chow line. I was sleeping on a bunk bed. Like, I don't do this shit, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So that process for me was so long, and then so happens like my parents actually weren't born here, so I'm like naturalized. So they have to they go visit your family in another country. It was such a like strenuous process. So
maybe it takes longer. Like, situation dictates too. Like, you're overseas now. They got to find people. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that.
So then I ended up getting reclassed. Like my clearance took so long. I ended up getting reclassed. So I got reclassed into material management, which is logistics supply for aircraft. So it's aircraft logistics supply.
Okay.
So I was cool with that because at the same time, like as a trainee, you don't want to be at Lackland like extremely long because even though you've graduated, people still you go to like you go to commissary, someone will mess with you if you like your boots or like your laces are out. Like I'm like
I know exactly what you mean. Like they're always trying to like nitpick. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, I'm just trying to go buy some fucking toilet paper, and I'm on duty, so I gotta wear this uniform. I'm just trying to live leave me alone. Yeah, no, I get it. When you're on certain bases like that, I'm pretty sure everybody else can relate, right? Like when you're at like Navy boot camp, right, and like you get stationed there, or like you get held, like they have like a holding tank, right? Like people who aren't allowed to like transfer yet for either medical reasons or just admin reasons or what have you. I bet that's probably the worst. Your uniforms have to be crisp. You gotta like probably, I don't know, some weird shit. But yeah, thank God I wasn't.
Yeah, you. It's like if you're like permanent party, like no one like, but you're like a trainee of any sort, like that's not where you want to be for a long period of time.
Yeah, everyone's trying to like get you. Like, oh, he was 5 feet from the smoke pit. You're like, okay,
exactly. So material management tech school was 30 days. So I'm like, oh, I'll do that. I'll be out of here in a month. So like I did my dream sheet. Like I found it actually maybe like a year ago. So obviously I'm from the Northeast. So I have my first choice was Belgium. I like Belgium. I think I had Hawaii. I had Korea. Like I had like cool stuff. I'm like, dude, I want to travel because I'm here for like 4 years in my mind. I'm here for a small pocket of time. I want to see some stuff. So I get all the way to the end of tech school, and then there's like a day. Funny enough, I saw like a video on Instagram the other day where it's like a reel where like when you first get your school dates and then you kind of freak out because it's not what you think it is. So I get mine. They hand them out. So mine said McConnell, so I'm stoked. So I'm asking like, dude, like what part of Europe is that? I'm pumped. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to Europe. And then like my instructor's like, no, that's Wichita, Kansas. I'm like, what do you mean? Like I didn't even know. Like I didn't even know.
yeah. Which I'm not leaving America. Yeah.
I'm like, well, hold on, what? I was like, there's no way. I was like, I had all overseas. I had nothing even like Midwest at all, like at all. And then, strange enough, there's a guy in my class who wanted to swap with me, which you can do in tech school. We can swap locations. So
really, that's dope.
He was going to Korea because we had the same job. He had Korea and I had McConnell. So he's from Kansas, but wanted to swap. So the swap would have taken me an extra 6-7 months at Lackland, and I was like, dude, I don't want to be here. I
gotta get out.
I gotta get out of here. So I'm like, I'll take it. And then
so you ended up going to Wichita, Texas. That's crazy.
Wichita, Kansas, yeah.
Oh, Kansas.
So
what did I say, Texas?
It's Kansas.
Yeah. Well, there's Wichita Falls. That's what threw me off before when we were talking. Yeah, so Wichita Falls in Texas. That's like where my tech school was, and I didn't know there was a Wichita, Kansas until I finally like heard someone say it, and I was like,
yes.
I was like, what do you mean in Kansas? I was like, that doesn't exist.
I'm actually headed to Wichita Falls soon. I have to ask you maybe offline, or you can tell me on here what kind of the area is. Like I got tech school down there too coming up.
So I was in tech school when I was down there. So literally, the only thing we did was go to bars and strip clubs. So unless you want to know all those fun details, and we got tattoos, dude. Yo, actually, funny story. I'm gonna give you a funny story about A school, right? So it was like a Saturday, and like we were like tier 3, so like, you could wear civvies. And you can like go out in town as long as you have like a battle buddy, So me and these two other guys, we were like, "Yo, let's go get tattoos." We're like, "All right, that's a good idea, right?" So we end up going to the tattoo parlor, and we're like, "Hey, we want to get tattoos." And they're like, "All right, well, you can't come now because we just opened and we have people here, but come back in like an hour or two. There's a Buffalo Wild Wings across the street. Go get lunch or something, and then when you're done, come back and we'll tattoo you." I'm like, all right, sounds good. So we went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we got hammered at about 11 o'clock in the morning. We must have spent about $300, and the only food we ordered was like a basket of French fries. That was it. The rest of that $300 was just spent on alcohol. And so we were twisted. We ended up going to like a liquor store before we went back to the tattoo shop. And I brought a whole case of Bud Light Platinum with me. And I sat down on the chair and used the Bud Light Platinum as like a pillow and like fell asleep while this guy tattooed me. And we all got like the outline of like our state, like what state we were from. And it says made in USA, and we all got it tattooed on our asses. So that's definitely my little input about A school. And like, yeah, from Wichita Falls, man, that place was, and like when we walked back in the tattoo shop, they were like, what the fuck happened? Like, it's been an hour, you know what I mean? It's noon. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, what the hell did you guys do? And they're like, you said go Buffalo Wild Wings, you know? Like, they were just like, God, hurry up, tattoo these kids and get them out of here. I'm glad they actually tattooed us, because when someone's drunk, you're not supposed to tattoo them, you know? Yeah. So I'm definitely not gonna give that tattoo shop a shout out. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, everybody. You talk about things right now. I'll give you like the three top, and you're probably gonna agree with me. What's right outside of base? I'll tell you what. There's not. There is not a sports stadium, but there is a tattoo parlor. There is a car dealership, and most likely there's a strip club. That's literally the three things that is all around a military base. Anything else? Like, no, we don't have that. Yeah, they get a little bit of freedom because, like, they're still young. So most of the people who join the military are like right out of high school, right? They're like 18, 19 years old, right? Or they just turned 18 in boot camp. They got like that little, like, get me out of jail free card. And then and then like their freedom is finally given to them after they come out of boot camp, but while they're still in tech school. And the first thing they do is, I hope not, knock on wood, is just go and fuck up. But that's just how it is.
That's how it is. That's how it is by nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm in Wichita, like 2011, early 2011. I'm in Wichita, like March. I'm in Wichita. Super culture shock. There is not much. I mean, we just talked about it. There's not much going around there. Outside the gate, there is couple dive bars. There's this place called Rodeo. I think it's closed down now. So it's I don't know if you watch like Yellowstone or anything like that. So
yes.
So it's they do like so like Thursday, Friday nights they do bull riding, like real life bull riding. They have like the bulls coming there, and like it's like almost like a racetrack almost. And then the bars on the outside, and then people do bull riding and you just get wasted and go watch people bull ride and just get like super drunk. So that was huge in Wichita until enough people went there and started getting into fights and stuff like that. And the commander had to be like, all right, you guys cannot go to Rodeo anymore.
It's always, it's just, it takes one person to fuck it up and then it's done for everybody. That's literally why we have rules. And any higher up in the military will tell you, you'd be like, why can't I drive my POV on base, for example, right? And he'll be like, let me tell you why we can't drive POVs on base. And then they're like, okay, now I get it. It's just one person fucked it up for everybody. But you know what? I guess that's why we have rules, right?
Right.
Ugh, whatever. It sucks.
So, yeah.
All right, so yeah, after Wichita, after the cows and the cattle and the farms, where do you end up going from there?
I got my first deployment TUI in 2012. I got consent because it's no longer there. Manas in Kyrgyzstan. So it doesn't exist anymore. But it's like halfway in between Russia, halfway in between China. So you kind of see you get Russian looking, but they speak Chinese, which is kind of kind of freaky in a way too. And
Yeah.
it gets extremely cold, so it got to like -28. So if you don't wear your gloves, you can get like frostbite, like instant. So
Did you have to go to like special training for that?
no. So no. Once we for us, like once we qualify within our career field, like I just have to qualify within my job, and then once I was all out of like my job quals, you could apply for any deployment or TUI or go beg for it and just hop on it.
Gotcha.
As long as you get the sign off from your boss. So I was just itching to get out of Wichita. So if anyone you had something, like, I'm going. I don't care where it is. I'm going.
Yeah, sounds great.
I'm on it.
I'll fill up sandbags in Iraq. I don't give a fuck. Get me out of here.
I'm like, I don't care. So I get out there, and for our job, we worked at the time. I worked directly for aircraft maintenance. So out there, they had, I think back then it was like the C-17s. I think they had like C-17s out there. So they had like a fleet of C-17s, and we were kind of supplying with parts because at that time, like they need aircraft out the door like super fast. So our job is like we work right under the maintenance personnel, and they tell us what they need so they can take off within their set parameter hours. So I was kind of on call. We had shift. We had like 12 hours. We had 12s, but it was like 4 of us. But we just alternate. Sometimes they'd call us like, "Hey, we need to fly something in the next like 5 hours. We need like a screw, like to put it in the jet, like whatever." And we just kind of be out there. Maintenance is like its own beast in the Air Force world.
Yeah,
they kind of do their own thing. It's kind of it's a little changed now, but back then, like everyone yells at each other. It's one of those. It's not a desk job. So you're on the flight line. You're on your feet. Like I think they are. So they think they're the hardest working people in the Air Force, which they probably are, right? Because you're outside in the shittiest of weather, is de-icing planes, like fixing planes. Like there's so it builds a certain core of a person. So I remember like I was young, E3, if you don't have like what they need like in 2 minutes, like some E7 will come down there and yell at you for like an hour, like, "Hey, what's going on? Why you mess this up?" And you're like, "Oh, I don't know, just kind of working my way through." But once you got really comfortable and you got proficient, they would go to bat for you for anything. And by the time halfway through that, like I was so engrossed in maintenance, got like a bunch of awards and stuff, kind of helping them out. We got jets out of there. I don't know how many we got out there, but we were just flying them in and out every day. We like, I think the prior rotation or two, like they had lost like millions in assets. We ended up finding it. So we ended up recovering like 13 million in Air Force assets. So it ended up being like actually really good deployment for like my first time out there. And then there was like this, they used to call it like the MICAP meeting. So it'd be like a status meeting, like 6:30 in the morning. It'd be like flight chiefs, chief, 06 colonel, a captain, like every single person, and then you'd brief the status of like where their aircraft parts is and how long it's taken. And I mean, you can get dunked on, but you could not. But it just kind of built your confidence in talking in front of people too.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of like I've been busting my ass this whole time, and it's cool to like have that leadership role to like explain something and like have like these higher ups, like these 07s or 06s, like look at you and like you're talking to them and they're like, all right, this is exactly what I needed, rather than like you telling somebody else and then they tell them and then like they get all the credit. Right. He didn't fucking do shit,
Right. So it kind of instilled me like two things happened at the same time. Like I understood like the big picture, like quick, like what the small stuff meant, like back at my workstation, what that meant to the big mission picture. And then I'm like, hey, if I do this right, like I have a direct line to the 06 or the 04, you know what I mean? So, and I felt like accomplished for the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I felt like locked in for the day. So yeah, so that was sick for me. So, which is funny because I'm a maintenance officer now. So it just kind of came full circle. Yeah. So it came full circle. But I was there and then I ended up coming back to McConnell again I was like 2013. I got back, so then I'm ready for I'm itching for like my next thing to do, and then I just started racking up TDYs. Like I went to like San Francisco, so like with logistics, so like supply and Air Force, there's a section like called like the kits. So what it is like when the airframe goes to like a remote location for like a 3-week TDY or like however long, they kind of augment out like a kit worth of assets that they think they would need to swap out on the jet, and then they needed like a logistics person to go with it.
Okay.
So it kind of gives you the opportunity to actually travel a lot, because if there's a mission and they need someone, then you can go. So I hopped on a bunch of those. I just wanted to. That was what I wanted to do. Like when I got in the military, I just wanted to travel, see stuff, do stuff. So I was on that, and then eventually I'm like, hey, it was getting closer to like 2014. The market was starting to kind of come back around. My friends back home, like they're starting to kind of get good jobs and stuff again. So I'm like, okay, I might be ready to get out, but I still had about 2 more years left in my contract, like 2.5, 3 years. So I did what's called Palace Chase. There's 2 things. There's Palace Chase and Palace Front. So Palace Front, like when your contract's over, you can go straight into the Guard or Reserve. Palace Chase is like halfway through. Once you've done halfway through your contract, you can do the rest in the Guard or Reserve. So there was an opportunity for me to go back to Andrews as a reservist and do my same career field. So I'm like, oh, cool, I get to go back home, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time, like, my wife now, my girlfriend then, like, she lives obviously in Maryland, in DC. So, like, I'm ready to go home, like, because we were doing a long distance thing for about 2 years. So
it's kind of a no-brainer for you. You're like,
yeah, I was like, I'm ready to get back home. So I made that happen. And then I was back home by like 2014. So
damn.
Yeah,
good for you.
It kind of happened. Yeah, I'm back home. 2014.
You've been doing this ever since. That's crazy.
And so I've been a reservist ever since 2014. I tried to not be a reservist like twice, I think. I mean, we can talk about that, but yeah, I just been here ever since. So I got back home, and I'm like, okay, now I need to like find a job. But it was. I always tell people, like, if you maximize your time in the military, even early on, when you get out, you can always find. I found a job. I found one job that I turned down like before I even left, like doing TAPS. They probably have TAPS in the Navy too, where you do the week of like.
Correct. Yeah.
Interview prep.
That's every branch of service. Yeah.
That's every branch. Yeah, I figured every branch thing. So, yeah, I had a job lined up like before I even flew back home. I didn't end up taking that one. And then it just didn't work out for me at the time. And then I ended up working as a temp at Amazon, because Amazon was looking for logistics people at the time. So they had like temp to hire roles. So I was like, oh, I'll do that. The pay was pretty decent. So I'm like, I'll do that until, whatever happens.
Yeah.
I ended up doing temp there for like 6 months. And then they ended up asking me to re-interview for my job, like full time. So I re-interviewed for my same job. And then I just got my job with a salary instead of hourly. I just became salary, and I was doing that. But out of TAPS, so when you get out of TAPS, like they always give you, I don't know if they still do it, like they give you like a list of jobs that pay like all this money, and I'm like, blah, blah, whatever. So I had it in my head, want to be a project manager, because they're like, project manager, make $100,000. I was like, all right, that's not bad. So, yeah. So I was working on my PMP. I already have my bachelor's, but I was working on my PMP because I'm like, okay, I get that. I can be a project manager. I can make $100K. Didn't know like what I wanted to do, but I was like, yeah, that's like the guy at TAP sold me on it. That's what I'm doing. So,
I don't know shit about it, but I'm about to figure it out.
I'm going to figure it out, right? I'm doing it. So, I ended up getting a job actually, so I actually at Amazon, I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. Do you guys have anything like that? That's like, this is the And they're like, no, we don't really have anything like that. But, you know, everything comes up, like, we'll definitely let you know. But so I was poking around trying to get on the track. I'm like, I got to be a project manager. So I ended up actually starting out working for a construction company. And they did a lot of residential, mostly. They do some commercial, but I came in as an estimator. So you actually look at all of the MEP, like the mechanical, engineering, plumbing. You go through like those facets. You go through like the appliances, like all that good stuff, and you do the estimating how much it should cost. And they kind of give you like, you get a blowout of the drawings, and then you kind of, there's this program that's called Takeoff, and then you use Takeoff, and then you kind of color in what this should cost, what it should not cost. And then you get your bids from the contractors, and you kind of measure it up apples to apples if it makes sense. So that was kind of my line to be a project manager. I was like, okay, it's because I was like a project engineer. So that's kind of how I got into doing that, like right after. So that happened, honestly, within like 7 months of Amazon. Like I just bounced from a job to a job, got a raise, and then I was on track like to be a PM. And then so funny, like maybe 4 months after that, I mean, the whole time I've been at Andrews, like, so you do your 1 week in a month, like you kind of get your feet wet. And by January 2015, they had a deployment out of Andrews coming up, and I got thrown on it. 6 months. Yeah.
So that kind of messed up your whole career field, huh?
Not really. Like, to their credit, like companies like, oh no, that's totally cool. Like, go do your deployment and come back. Like most jobs are like actually pretty cool with that if you kind of give them a heads up.
They're like, oh, you're military. You gotta go do something. As long as you can give me the paper so we can legally cover your ass, you're good. See you later.
It was good to go. So I ended back out the door again for another 6 months. But it was cool. It's like you don't get the camaraderie. Like I look back, you don't get the camaraderie like on the outside. You get in the military, right? Like you get back overseas. Like, I hadn't done my job full time for like at that point maybe like 8 months, maybe close to a year. But like I got right back into it, like super fast.
That's good though.
Yeah. I got right back into it, and then I was like, oh my god, like this. You just can't get this on the like. You just can't get you can't beat the people, like the adventures you have, like where you like the stuff you do. So I had actually gotten engaged before I deployed because I'm like, I know I'm gonna get married, so I should like propose and kind of get like myself situated, you know. So by the time I got back, I got married like month and a half after, which he gives me shit for still to this day because I miss like all the wedding planning, which is actually fantastic.
Yeah, hopefully she doesn't listen to this.
She rags on me about that to this day. Yeah, she planned the whole wedding around, so she rags on me to this day. So I got back to DC again, like back at my job. Still kind of plugging away, and then she does property management for her career. So she got the opportunity because she's from Boston. So she got the opportunity to come back to Boston, which she kind of always wanted to do because all her family's huge Italian family. So they're all out here.
Makes sense.
I was actually coming here during the summer, and I'm like, it was actually amazing. Like I enjoyed, like, I don't know if you've been in Maine. Have you been up in Maine?
Nah, I haven't been to Maine.
Oh, dude, it's like a hidden secret. Like no one knows about it.
Really? I mean, it's just so far up there, you know? They got good lobster.
No,
maybe that's about it.
I agree with you, right? So, like, living in D.C., like, why would I go up to Maine? Like, no reason to.
Yeah.
So we go up there during the summers, like, beautiful beaches, like, super quiet locale, like, good bar scene.
Okay.
Lobster roll. I don't know if you have lobster roll. You probably have lobster roll.
Oh, so fucking good, dude. Lobster rolls are fire.
Exactly. So when she was like, "Oh, we're moving the bar," I'm like, and I enjoy the summers here. You can do the Cape, Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
You can do Maine. You can do all that good stuff. Like when you live in like Maryland, stuff like that. You can do Virginia Beach, but it's not. I mean, if you've been, it's like not the greatest of beaches to go to.
Yeah.
So the summers, I was just sold. I was sold on. What's that?
Nah, you're good. I was gonna say naturally being from like the New York area, like our like big vacation is going to like Ocean City. You know what I mean? We go to like
Exactly.
you go to
Yeah.
Ocean City and then you're like, oh, this is so cool. But then as you get older, you realize like there's so many other cool places to go to. You know?
1,000%. So say that's where everyone in Maryland goes, Ocean City. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like let's roll up to Boston. So my job, so I let them know, like, hey, my wife got something in Boston. Like, I would still want to stay. Roll up to Boston. They were like, but hey, we don't have your role in that market yet. So yeah, so that was a little tough for me. So I couldn't keep my job. I had to kind of get out here and kind of find my next role. And then at the same time, my reserve contract was actually coming up to the end. But what was happening was I was stationed at Andrews, but living in Boston, and I would have to either fly or bus my way once a month from Boston to DC and back, which is
that
disgusting.
sounds miserable. Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Those buses,
like
those Greyhound buses are terrible, dude. It's like an unwritten rule, you know, like don't take a shit on a plane and don't take a shit on a Greyhound bus. And if someone breaks that rule, your trip's about to be miserable.
Those are rough. And then I was like, be honest, like I was paying more than I was making during that 2-day weekend to actually get the drill. So and I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm actually in the hole going to drill once a month.
Yeah.
So I was actually, I'm like, you know what? I'm just not gonna re-enlist. Like I had a good run. Like I enjoy it, but it's just not working out for me. So my commander at the time, Andrews, she had actually come from where I am right now. I'm in a base up in Western Mass. So I was like, hey, I'm not re-enlisting. Like the travel for me, like it sucks for me. I just can't do it. And she could tell like I was just having a rough time. Like and I'm still looking for a job at the same time too. So I'm unemployed, traveling back and forth once a month. I'm like, this is not working for me. And she was like, don't come back here. Go to this base. We'll do all the paperwork for you on like the back end. Like she just took care of me. And she was like,
that's a real one.
Yeah. She was like, she was like, sign an extension. She's like, don't re-enlist, like sign an extension for a year. Like if you feel your way through. She's like, do an extension. She's like, I don't want to leave you, do an extension. But she was like, just don't come back here next month. Just like go there.
All right. Sounds good.
So yeah. I was like, that's like a lifesaver. Like I just took a weight off my shoulders. So and I've actually been at Westover, it's in Western Mass, reserve, the biggest reserve, one of the bigger reserve bases. They have big flying mission there. So I've been there since that day.
Okay.
So I actually reached out to her recently just to tell her, after my career has kind of come full circle, just I appreciate that leadership. Just like, hey, I'll take care of you.
It's always good to have like someone like that in your, like kind of like in your military career, that like when you later on down the road when you're like, shit, like I need help or I need advice or like I don't know, I just have a question. You know what I mean? Like a basic ass question, like which way do my ribbons go? You know what I mean? You can just text that person a picture and they'd be like, you're an idiot, dude. Like this is how it goes. You know what I mean? And like they know what the hell they're talking about. Because I don't know anybody who could just tell somebody else to be like, hey, just don't worry about coming to this duty station no more. Just go to that one and I'll take care of you. And you're like, you fucking sure? Like, do they know I'm coming? Like, do I just like show up? That's dope. That's cool, man.
She put me on email traffic, so like they knew I was coming, and like if anyone knows the process now, it's like called like a 1288, and you sign it through like a bunch of people, and it goes all up the chain. But she was like, we will take care of that. You just don't come back here. Yeah.
So maybe I missed it, but along this way, when you first enlisted, you were enlisted, right?
Yeah.
So, and now you're an officer, correct?
Correct.
So where did that whole transition happen?
That's new. I was enlisted for 13 years.
Holy shit! There
Same,
you go.
yeah. Oh, a while. So same career field. So for me,
Yeah.
it's like a total. Once I actually made I got to Westover, so I don't want to kind of jump around too much, but I got to Westover. My career is still kind of going.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at E5 at the time, staff sergeant. So I'm like, okay, like I think I'll be here. My extension is still going. But then when it's time for me to re-enlist, kind of talking to my wife, she's like, you love doing it. She's like, just re-enlist. She's like,
Okay.
and in my mind, I'm like, well, if I re-enlist now, that takes me to 12, and that means I have to be like a lifer. Because if you do 10, you just like have to do 20.
Yep. Yeah, you're not wrong about
And
that.
that was the discussion in the house. And she's like, no, she's like, you should do it. So just do it. So I did 6 more. Deployed once more out of Westover. And at that time, I made E6. And in my mind, like my dream job, if I ever stayed in the military long enough, was to be a first sergeant. Like that was like top of the. If I ever stayed in long enough, I was like, you know what? I just to give back. Like I think that'd be like the perfect role. Like that'd be like the job for me. So
Yeah.
I did like the first sergeant symposium. I came out of there. I was like, okay, I think I might do that. What they have at a lot of their reserve bases, they call it the Deserving Airman Program. So if you have your bachelor's, you've done great in your career, et cetera, they'll have a commissioning board where they have like a list of openings they have within the wing of career fields, and they'll all interview you like in a big like mass interview, and if you get selected, like you'll get a commission.
That's dope. That's definitely a good incentive to like keep you in like the military too, you know? Because like people who join enlisted. I mean, don't get me wrong. The khakis, right? Like the higher ups. Like as soon as you hit like E7, like that's like when things get big leagues, right? But before you get to that, you always think you're like, dude, like I could have been an officer, or like being an officer must kind of like be dope. It's like a complete different like section of the military, right? But for them to actually like offer that to you and be like, hey man, you have literally all the fucking requirements you need. You just don't have to go to like, OCS or whatever it is because like you're already in the military.
No. If you get selected,
okay.
Yeah, so it's the whole. It's actually like it's a big gambit. So they presented it to me, and then I still was like kind of like at the time I'm like I was kind of in line. I was in line to make E7. I was like I'm gonna be a first shirt. I'm like I'm kind of okay with where my career was going. I had done
I have to ask my wife first.
No. Officers are different, right? Like if you like, it's just different. I'm like, I just don't know if that's like the fit for. I just at the time, I just didn't see. I was like, at first, I thought to myself like, that's the fit for me, right? And then so I did a symposium while I was deployed, like for 3 days. I was like, I think this is kind of where like I'm shaping my mind up. But funny enough, I had like a really weird experience while I was deployed with like an officer. Just wasn't like super great. And I was like, this is such a shitty experience. And then, but in my mind, it's kind of like, you can't really fix anything. Like even if I get promoted again, I make like E7. Like you really like the most like you can't really be like really be a change agent unless you're an officer. Really, yeah. Like you like. I think the role of like a senior NCO at E7 is to kind of like, I know for the Air Force, it's like looks like a house. And I've always been told like the house it's like the house is like the cover of the shit that falls down. That's the role of like the senior NCO. And it's to kind of protect the people. But you really can't be a big change agent unless you're actually like in that seat. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, you could complain or you could actually like put your nose down and actually like try to be like kind of go for it and see what happens. So I had a day over there. I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm just gonna go. I ordered the books. Call my wife. I'm like, I ordered the books over there, FAQT books. Cranked them out while I was out there. Took the tests. I didn't get my scores actually until I came back. I got my scores when I came back, and they were pretty good. So I'm like, okay. I put my package together, but I still, when I came back, had an E7 board because I still was in line. I still was in line. I still was in line like to do that and possibly be a first shirt.
Yeah, that's crazy. You had 2 opportunities to go kind of like ensign or like O1 or hit E7. That's crazy. That's probably like one of the. That's wild. Yeah.
I was in a while, like, so I got back, but when I got back, I'm like, I don't know, like, because you never know, like, people's perceptions. So I wonder if they'll still let me interview for, like, you don't know, like, they might think I'm, like, doing the officer thing, but my chief talked to me, my chief was awesome. She was like, she's like, no one can halt, like, progression. So, like, you're still gonna interview for the board. You can still go through the deserving airman board. You can do both, like, just see where, like, kind of where it falls out. So I interviewed for E7, made it, like, I made it, like, I got back home and I got promoted, like, E7, like, maybe, like, 2 months after that, maybe 2 or 3 months after that. And then and which was crazy. So, like, when I turned my package in for the officers, like, because you have to do, like, your whole Air Force bio with the picture and your blues, like, the whole 9, everything, and then you have your rank in there and stuff like that. But I already sent my package in like a little bit prior, so I had all E6 stuff in there. I had to go back and fix it. Like, so it was so great. Like, I had to do all this stuff and fix it, so it was crazy. And then I go back in there. So I got promoted, I think, to E7 in May. I had the board for the officer in June, and then found out July that I made it. So I was like a master for like a month before I found out like I was going to be a LT, which is crazy.
That's definitely the go around from E6 to E7 to O1 in the span of what? How many months?
And that was like that was like a 4 or 5 month pocket of time where like your your career just kind of like changed.
Yeah.
It was like what's gonna happen?
Good for you though, man. And you know what? I do give you credit because like every enlisted person's dream who is gonna like stay in wants to hit E7. As soon as they hit E7, they're like, all right, I'm good. I made it. I can retire. Like, like with like, I guess the best pension you can call it without like, going more up in the ranks. But for you to like do all that and then be like, nah, I'm going officer. And even from a lower enlisted point, like whenever you've had an officer before and there's some brand new guy, 22 years old telling you what to do, you're like, man, fuck this guy, like, well, who's he? He doesn't know how this shit works. Like, I've been here for 3 years, man. I know where the wrenches go. Don't tell me where the wrenches go. You know what I mean? Right. Shit like that. But when you have someone who comes in, when you have someone who comes in who was an E7, and he's like, he's been in the military for a long time, and he's like, hey, man, so how does shit work around here? Like, you try to fit in rather than like make your own schedule and make your own style. Yeah.
Because like I think that's the difference. Like, and then like when you come into OTS like last year, right? And that's the main difference between the prior service and like the brand new off the street is like, I know I don't know everything, right? But the one up you have like as like a prior enlisted is like I know where to go to get my information. So like I'm not gonna project on you that I know.
Yeah,
because like I know, like most people know, like if you go in like a work center, like 2 people are probably the most skilled or have the most knowledge. There's gonna be there's gonna be one person in the E4 mafia. They know how to do this job like the back of their hand, and then there's probably like an E5, E6 somewhere in that too. Probably a little disgruntled, but also knows how everything about the job and can tell you everything good and bad about the job. And those are probably the 2 people you want to tap into to get a real understanding of what's going on and like what's going on. But I feel like if you're not prior, like, and you just go in and you just have no idea. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a different
and you could definitely tell, like, and the enlisted can tell, like the lower, like they'll kind of eat them alive, like the newer ones, you know. They're like, oh, fresh meat, you know what I mean? Like, we got all this
Right.
pent up stuff right now, and now I'm getting yelled at for some stupid shit. Nah, man,
Right.
it's definitely cool. And just from talking to you for the past 55 minutes, I can definitely tell that, like, you know, you're definitely one of those people who came in and you're like, hey, man, I'm getting paid more. I don't give a shit. Nah.
I mean, I definitely, so like I tell, like, I definitely want like stuff to happen like the way it's supposed to happen, but I really want to be like the kind of officer that gives back and takes really care of my people. Like, I had a really good officer as well that helped me like get here. Like, a couple like helped me get here. Both prior enlisted, right? And you can tell the difference. One of the main things I think I even mentioned, I think I tell people in OTS, like, you can tell when you get that brand new company grade officer, and they always blow smoke. Like, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that, and like it just never happens.
Yeah,
and that's the main thing, right? Like, I wanted to be like that office, like that CGO. At least that's where I'm at right now. The follow through has to be there, right? Like, the follow through and taking care of your people has to be there. Like, sometimes you can feel like when someone's just doing it to get a EPB or OPB or just to get some type of award, and it's not genuine.
That's dope. That's dope. Hey, man, so you got the whole military thing packed down tight. I don't know what book you read, but I'm gonna have to get me a copy because you definitely have the roadmap to, like, probably like every enlisted person's dreams who's actually gonna like do like a full 20, or let's call it 25, because no one ever does 20, right? You hit your 20 and you're like, well, I retire now, I'm gonna get the next pay grade retirement, so let me do an extra 3 years. Oh wait, the Navy got me, so let me do an extra 5 years so I can get that retirement pay. But what are you doing now on the outside? What are you doing besides your 1 weekend a month?
So besides my 1 week in a month, when I kind of jumped over that part. When I got to Boston, I ended up falling. I worked at Raytheon for like 5 years. I worked at like a program manager / supply chain role, so I was able to kind of marry like the two things I was kind of doing anyway. So I did that for like 5 years. I actually got back to Amazon again right before COVID, like not right during COVID actually.
Okay. And
then I did that as a project manager again too for like another year and a half. And now, actually, funny enough, I work at Hanscom Air Force Base. It's like half hour from where I am. I'm a senior logistics manager, so I have like 2 CAT cards. So I have like my civilian CAT card in the day, and I have my military CAT card at night. So I'm kind of like an Air Force lifer at this point. So yeah, I work on base during the day, Air Force CAT card, and then military stuff. I have military CAT. So yeah, I'm like an Air Force person now on both sides.
Yeah, you're definitely eat, sleep, breathe Air Force, man. That's crazy. We gotta get you a bumper sticker that says like Army on it or something. Give you a little break. I don't know.
Dude, I tell people, like, outside of like having a family, having like, you know, getting married, having a kid, like, Air Force is the best thing I've ever done. Like, the best.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, so whenever I went to the recruiting station, there was 3 offices. There was Army recruiter, there was a Marine recruiter, there was a Navy recruiter. There was no Air Force recruiter, and maybe I regret it because I didn't have enough gas and I didn't know where it was, so whatever. That's why I never joined the Air Force. But when I looked, right, there's like one, like the Marines on the right, and then the Army in the middle, and then the Navy on the left. And I look at the Marines one, and I'm like, damn, they're like fucking yoked out of their mind, and I was just a skinny, like soaking wet, 120-pound kid. I was like, fuck this, dude. I was like, I ain't going over there. Look at the Army dude. They're like doing like push-ups and shit. I'm like, nope, not about it. Looked at the Navy dudes, and like there's like one overweight guy, one strong guy, and then one guy outside smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, that's where I want to go. That's basically like how it was for me. But definitely the Air Force was like working hand in hand with the Air Force a lot. You know what I mean? Like, one, your galleys are amazing.
Yeah, but I feel like you guys have the better like locale. To be honest, like every Navy person I've like I know, I feel like your stations are a lot more like scenic than ours. Like,
Yeah. I mean, Norfolk, San Diego.
Yeah. Right.
That's really all I really know. But I mean, the biggest ones on the East Coast and the West Coast, right? But then again, like certain jobs, like don't even go on ships. Like I joined the Navy not to be on a ship. Everybody knows, like it says it up there. I'm a UT. I'm a plumber, so I would be like an HT on a ship, which is basically a plumber on a ship. But I was like, dude, I ain't going on a fucking ship. And they were like, what do you mean you don't want to go on a ship? You're in the Navy recruiting office. I'm like, yeah, but I know y'all got some other job somewhere else. So bring out like the secret jobs. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Like, are you like scared of water or like what's the deal?
Am I who?
Am I scared of water? Like what's the deal?
Listen, listen. You're in the Air Force. No, I'm not afraid of water. I love the water. But you're in the Air Force, so you can definitely relate and agree with this one. Why the fuck would I take a boat for 9 months on the water to get to Europe when I could just take a 13-hour flight? You know what I mean? Like what?
I'm with you.
Yeah. Like why would I want to go on a ship for 9 months to go all the way to Europe when I can just hop on a plane and just take the plane for 13 hours? And, you can take a little nap, the stewardess. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That part of it was never appealing to me. I don't know. I just, why would I be in a ship like that long? It just never appealed to me.
Yes. But it was always, it was the pamphlets that got people and the commercials. Because you see these Navy SEALs coming out of the water, all tactical. And you see these big, beautiful ships and these fighter jets. And then they throw you in the galley and make you sleep in like a 6 by 4 foot box, and you're like, "What the fuck is this? This wasn't on the pamphlet."
They have the best. They have the best. I give them that. They have the best. Like they'll get you in the door until you start asking questions.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Yeah, I mean, dude, all the branches of the service are just so funny and so interesting in their own ways. You know what I mean? Except for the Coast Guard. Who the fuck even knows? I don't even know anybody in the Coast Guard. Is the Coast Guard even a thing anymore? No, I'm joking. That's funny. There actually is. I think there is a. You said what? Go ahead. Go for it.
Boston. There's one actually in Boston. Actually, I don't have that. Yeah,
really?
Coast Guard base. Like, yeah. It's right in the north, in the middle of like Little Italy. Right there, there's like a Coast Guard base. So most of the coasties, like, they go have Italian food, like everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's dope. But, I feel like the Coast Guard is like they're like the smaller version of the Navy because they don't have like the bigger ships. I'm assuming, right? They have like the smaller ships. Well, boats. I don't want to mess it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disrespect, but it's like they have so like you see them sometimes like Boston Harbor, like they kind of just like, I guess they make sure you don't ride your boat too far, like, stuff like that. They might stop you.
I mean, kind of dope, man. As long as you apply your sunblock, I think you'll be all right. It's kind of a cool job.
I mean, it's not like the worst thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool job. But I never see like a Coast Guard recruiting office. Now that I think about it, it's like a baby pigeon. I've never seen a baby pigeon in my life.
They're hard to come by, but I would say like I've seen them more here, like in this New England area, than anywhere else. I guess because it's surrounded by water, obviously.
That's facts, dude. Damn, dude, I'm learning so much about the Coast Guard from an Air Force and a Navy dude. If you're in the Coast Guard, you're not going to be in fucking Wichita, Kansas. You're going to be on the coast.
Right.
You're going to be by bodies of water. Yeah, that's dope. Well, you thought about that in the Navy,
Yeah. So I've seen one in Rhode Island. There's a Coast Guard. So I'm like, oh, it makes sense because like there's a bunch of water here. I get it. Okay, cool. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. That's dope. All right, man. So, hey, it sounds like you got your roadmap, you got your path paved for you. You're just making sure you stay in the parameters of it. But I do want to kind of jump into like what you're doing also on the side. You're you kind of opened up your own company, no?
So I'm dual hatted with my wife. So my wife is the mastermind and the creative. Like if you go on my Instagram page, you'll see Boys by Babe. So my wife does all of the ideas. I have 2 jobs in it. Well, 3 technically. Sometimes I will actually be the one to go out and actually buy the cheese. So sometimes she gives me the free for all, depending on what like someone orders. Like I'll go out and I go to Wegmans and have a field day. I'll buy all the cheese and bring it home, and then she'll like create whatever it is. I do the receipts, finances, and put together for taxes and stuff like that. And then in the initial startup, I was the delivery guy. So, and this is before we had our dog.
Too bad you can't just take a plane there. That'd be funny. Pull up a helicopter.
Right, exactly. That'd have been sick. That'd been the sickest marketing. So yeah, before like we got our daughter, like I would Saturday morning hop in my car like 8 a.m. and I like drive around New England like all day, and we get orders from all over like New England, so I just kind of drive around and drop it off. So and it actually turned out to be like she enjoys doing it. I think she has a really good eye for it. She ended up in a couple magazines, interviewed her, like she's like actually doing so well. She had some articles, stuff like that. It kind of came out of it. We started doing like weddings. We did a couple of grazing tables for like some weddings. She's done birthday party stuff, like graduations, you name it. Like she's probably done it. So we did that like all through COVID. And this is like actually the craziest piece of it. Like we haven't been doing it for a while since we had our daughter. Because our daughter is she's about like 20 months now, about like 22 months. So like we just couldn't.
She's taking up all the time.
He takes up all the time. But you know what's the wildest thing I actually didn't tell you in the midst of all that? When we were talking about like my transition, like the enlisted to officer, and then I found out like I made officer in like July. Like my wife, I found out she was pregnant like September, like 3 months like after that.
Boom, 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 everything all at once.
Oh yeah,
dude, that's crazy.
So my life was so nuts. Like in 2021, I had so much like fantastic things happen by all means, but I had so much life changing stuff happen in such a small pocket of time that I like my head is spinning. So we haven't done it in a couple of months just because we just wanted to get her like through daycare, just kind of get her feet wet as parents and kind of work our way through. So if you go on her Instagram now, you'll see like she has a little note like, "Hey, we're just kind of taking a little break right now, but we should start back soon." You know, like our daughter is walking and talking, and she's kind of her own crazy person. So we took a little break, but the LLC is still there, and it's definitely something we're gonna get back into in a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like this platform is all about just veterans and active duty people just sharing their stories and experiences. But also the caveat to, the tips and tricks you might have, right? Like for people to hear your story and be like, all right, maybe I'm not alone. But another thing too is like entrepreneurship and just the things like active duty and veterans do, like when they get out of the military, right? Like what they do on the side. So this right here, Boards by Babe. If you're listening to this, you can go check them out on Instagram. They do charcuterie boards. They do charcuterie boxes. They do grazing tables. Like you said, they're not currently taking orders right now, but it doesn't hurt. It's completely free to go online, give them a follow. This way, when they do open up, you can go check them out and possibly be one of the first people to place an order. From Boston, though, so I don't know if I really trust it, but no, I'm joking.
Oh, that's true. But no. I think you have to come down to Boston one time. I think I'll change your mind.
I would. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have been to Boston. I've been to Boston.
All right.
I took a tour of the Sam Adams Brewery. We stopped at Doyle's. Got some of the best clam chowder soup I've ever had in my life. Took the little trolley around, it was like the tour trolley to like the liquor store, and then we got drunk on the bus. Went to the brewery. The brewery was great because the brewery was free. For those of you who don't know, the Sam Adams Brewery tour is completely free.
Yeah.
You just make like a little donation, so that was pretty cool. We did end up at the Cheers bar. That was pretty cool to see like the Cheers bar where they had like the set and everything. But it was not very. It wasn't lived too long because like while we were there were some like Bostoners at the end of the bar, just kind of like giving us a side eye, like talking shit. And I was like, "Hey man, like we better get out of here. It's getting a little heated. This ain't my home."
It's not.
Yeah, I was like, someone's gonna have it.
And when I was dating my wife, like when I first came here, I'm like a huge Knicks fan, which is hilarious. Neither here nor there.
Oh,
I had,
there you go.
Yeah, and I had like Knicks gear. I went into like TD Garden, and dude, people like called me everything. I wouldn't even everything in the book. Like I wouldn't even like talk about it in here. But get outside, say the bar. People bought me drink. Like we had the best time. Like they'll give you a hard time. Like I really like Boston people. Like they're just die hard about the sports.
Oh yeah.
But like they'll kill you about the sport. But like if you're not like too much of a dick back and you're just like good like shit talk back and forth, you'd be like, oh dude, you want a beer? And then you just go sit with them and just have a good time.
Yeah, maybe that I'm older now. You know what I mean? Maybe like they seem like a young douchebag kid, and they're like, fuck this kid. But now that I'm older and like I have like a wife and I'm just old, you know, drinking a light beer, they're probably like, this guy's pretty cool. He sounds pretty stupid, but he's pretty cool.
1,000%. Like every time I go out to the bar now in Boston, I'll meet like 5 people who aren't from here, and they just want to like watch a game or something, and just just that shit talk with someone and just have a good time.
That's dope, man. That's dope. Hey, any advice or anything you want to cover that we kind of didn't get into? Any like, you know, someone who's looking to join the military or someone who's in the middle of their career right now and is kind of questioning like, what should I do? You have any advice for those people?
Yeah, absolutely. I would find a mentor. Like that was been the best thing to me, right? Like whatever level I got to, I found the 2 things I always did. That people always tell you like, don't compare yourself to others, right? But I would always like every rank I was at, I would find someone at the same one, and I thought was like pretty shit hot. And like, okay, I gotta kind of trace what that person was doing, or kind of see if I can emulate as best as I can. And then I would find someone like 2 ranks higher, right? Like, and just sit down and pick their brain and find out, like, what do you do? Like, what's the gap between where I'm at and you at, and what am I not seeing, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's something obviously you're doing that I'm not even aware of. And that's helped me the most. Like, I remember I was E-4 Mafia, and I had a boss, and to this day, I credit it, right? She could have took it the wrong way. I was like, hey, like, what do you do? Because she just sat down at her desk all day, right? Like, she wasn't running parts of the plane or anything like that. She was on her computer all day. She was like, I'm like, what do you do? And she didn't take it. She's like, oh, come, I'll show you. And she kind of walked me through her data. I'm like, oh, I get it. There's stuff that you do that is over my head. But now I know the importance of and then so that's the biggest piece of advice is like find someone that's willing to mentor you, ask questions, kind of find out, because I always say too is to get to the next rank, you probably have to perform at that level prior to getting promoted, right? So find out what do you need? It's like to be an E6, if you're like whoever is like an E5 and want to be E6 or 6 or 7, find out what that next rank is doing that you're not doing yet, and fill in the gaps early on. So by the time you pin on or you promote, you're ready to rock and roll. I think mentorship is like the biggest thing I can point out to take, like, and people are willing to help you out. I feel like if you ask someone like, hey, like, what do you do, or what, like, I'd love to pick your brain, most people are open to it.
Was that a dog?
Yeah, I thought she was saying that.
The shit. I was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like, oh, I hope it was not my PlayStation.
No,
hey, man. You're good, man. Hey, anything you have for me? Any questions you have for me that you didn't get to ask or you're kind of curious about before I let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do. I love everything you're doing. You're getting everyone from all over the place. I know it's wild. Like, there's so much different eclectic vets you've had on here. It's like a wild mix. Like, what's the direction you're thinking about going in the future? Kind of what's the future looking like for you?
So, to be honest with you, this is the first time I've said it. I'll probably release this episode, in a couple weeks. No one really knows when we did it, but for the past, 2 months, this has been, absolutely draining.
Okay.
I started it mental health wise, like to, kind of help me like focus and maybe give me some insight and give me some guidance as to like, buying a house or going to school or resources and whatnot. But I'm a one-man army, man. There's nobody to run my social media. There's no one to edit. Everything is literally me. So it's starting to come to that point where I'm just like, I'm at that limit where I'm just like, I need a break. So I was gonna push through, and I was gonna do like an episode every single week until like I was completely done with it. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break it up into seasons, right? So I'll probably take off for like the summer, maybe from like I don't know, July to maybe like end of August or something. Give myself like a little break to give time to like regroup, regather, and like keep it going. But I definitely have things planned for like the end of the year. September is going to be a big month. I'm definitely excited about that. I have this one guy. He's actually in the Air Force. He's in E-1, I think, in the reserves, doing special forces. Not special forces. Security force. No, security forces, not special force. Yeah, yeah, and we have like a 4-part episode, so that'll be pretty cool to do all that. I definitely want to get the brand out there. I'm trying to just broaden the community a little bit, and also maybe join some communities. Trying to get some big time guests on here. That would be like the ideal, But short term, just kind of regroup, regather, and lessons learned. Right? I kind of just jumped into this. So I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I bought all my shit off Amazon, and I was like, all right, how do I press play? But now I'm starting to learn everything. So
yeah, but that's like the main thing, right? You just have to do, and you're doing that, right? So like, I think that's awesome.
Yep. It's not about failing. It's about quitting. You know what I mean? So you can fail as many times as you want. It doesn't matter until you quit. When you quit, that's when yada yada yada. But you can take a break. Exactly. Taking a break is not quitting. So
exactly. Taking a break is not quitting.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So hey,
this
bro,
is absolutely fun.
Hell yeah, man. I want to say thank you so much, man. I honestly, I had no clue about you and your story. I didn't know you went from E-1 all the way to O-1 in the matter of 4 months. That's literally what I might call this episode. E-1 to O-1 in 4 months. I don't know how the hell that was possible.
That'd be stick a title.
Yeah, that would be dope. People be like, this is definitely clickbait. And then they'll listen to it. They'll be like, no, man, that kind of makes sense in my eyes. I see where he got the title from. That was actually pretty clever. Yeah, shout out. No, but hey, man, thank you, man. And
thank you.
I appreciate you joining me on the journey. I appreciate you supporting me. Never let it stop, man. If you need anything,
absolutely not.
Of course, if you need anything, feel free to reach out. And I will most likely do the same, man.
All right, we'll do it. Reach out anytime.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Freedom Empire. We'll catch you on the next pod.
Later. Catch you next time.
All right. Yes, sir.
Views presented are those of the speaker, and the guest do not necessarily represent the views of the Department of Defense or its components. Neither the Department of Defense or its components bears any responsibility for the accuracy, legality, or content of the views discussed on this podcast. Now, without further ado, let's get into this.